Hello and welcome back to Just the Receipts. Today we have a special treat. We have a psychologist joining us. And what's special about her is that she is also a viewer and a consumer of all the content, all the videos within the true crime community on YouTube. And today she's here to talk with us a little bit about things that she has observed. We know there's a lot of stuff, a lot of weird things going down in this community. So we're getting her perspective today, and I'm very thankful for that. So, Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about a little bit about just your overall impressions of this community.
Well, I had a soft entry into the crime community. I started watching YouTube a couple of years ago. And being a social psychologist, I'm very interested in how people interact with one another. So YouTube offered me an opportunity to not only take a look at some things that interest me, like reality television reviews from the bloggers and that sort of thing, but also to be able to observe people and how they interact in a community such as YouTube. Delving into the true crime community after I sort of lost interest in that reality realm. But there are a lot of similar things about being a community participant in other interest areas in YouTube besides just true crime. But true crime has some very interesting and very unusual actors, we'll say, people that interact with one another to consume YouTube products.
Mm-hmm.
And true crime is a very enticing thing for people across all ages, really.
Mm-hmm.
All adult ages, I should say.
And about how long have you been watching videos within the true crime genre?
I've been watching true crime specifically since about May, actually specifically May of last year. It coincides with other things that were going on during that time. And it pretty much usurped the role of television in my life. I started watching only YouTube. And I became very interested when the Summer Wells case arose. So I've been highly immersed in watching, observing, and interacting in the true crime community deeply since Summer Wells case. That would be June 15th of 2021 when she disappeared.
Mm-hmm. And did you find that YouTube kind of pushed certain creators' videos at you as a new viewer in the community at first? Let's say if you Googled Summer Wells, or if you typed Summer Wells in the search box for YouTube, were there certain creators' videos that were suggested to you by YouTube more so than others that you don't watch today, for instance?
Oh, yes. The algorithm basically is the tool that drives what's going to come up according to what you type in your search bars. I routinely search Summer Wells just to see what's coming up and what new creators there might be that are out there. And with this, what's interesting in regards to following a true crime case is the entry of different YouTubers during the time of the case. So for specifically Summer Wells case, she's coming up on 8 months missing. And having been there and observing from the beginning of her missing to seeing the entry of new YouTubers, during this 8 months and, where they're at in terms of their development in the case, that makes a difference too. So when I'm Googling or searching Summer Wells and filtering for more latest activity, I'm looking for some of those newer channels that are coming up and seeing what kind of misinformation might be going out in the community at that point. There are typically almost notoriously certain video creators that come up, and a multiple number of their videos will come up. And yes, there are absolutely several creators that have come up that I've watched quite a bit of their material and will no longer watch at all. They continue to come up in that algorithm though.
Hmm. And what were some of the reasons why you stopped watching some of those creators?
Um, there's a collection of reasons. Mainly, my interest in whether I will watch and continue watching or not has to do with their intent. A lot of things do depend on the interaction with the audience. I'm not sure how deeply we want to analyze that, but um,
You can
there are
go as
certainly
go as deep as you want.
there's certainly a mob mentality that starts to grow in relation to the length of time someone has been on YouTube, and obviously the quality of the information or the relevance of the information. It doesn't even have to be good information, it just has to be relevant um, in order to gain popularity. I'm interested in what the intent is behind that. And when I spoke of later entry to this genre, this specific case of Summer Wells, and the timing of things, you start to realize that there are motivations and intent behind creating a YouTube channel and putting out specific content the way it's delivered. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
It seems clear that some channels are reporting and some channels are we'll just say grifting.
Hmm.
And that becomes more clear over time. But I think that the nature of the chat, there's, like two levels of the chat, or well, actually three levels of the chat. There's the moderators who have power and fall into a power achievement model when we look at the dynamics of how people interact in a YouTube chat.
Hmm.
There are the chatters themselves who are aggressive people that are attention seeking people,
Hmm.
myself included. I've interacted as a chatter, I've interacted as a moderator, not for a big channel though. So I really don't ever want to be a moderator for anybody. But
Hmm.
nonetheless, I digress. There's also the silent observer. We have hate watchers and then we have love watchers, but they just don't interact uh, visibly. They interact behind the scenes. Together with this, depending on the motivation of the creator of the channel, a certain collective mentality will develop. And you will see people behaviorally respond in kind to that when they're chatting. So moderators will become more aggressive for people that speak anti, comments on the creator, things of that nature. So it's an interesting power struggle between creator, moderator, and chatter that goes on that make this the true crime community very interesting to study from a social psychology perspective.
Mm. I never thought of all those different levels within the chat.
Yes.
That's
And
very, yeah.
the creator does have an ultimate element of control.
Right.
And when we talk about, there's so many things to talk about with this in regards to psychological approach, intent, power models, reasons for going on YouTube, reasons for becoming a creator on YouTube. These things are all fascinating and very understudied in research. So there's a large opportunity for people that are interested in these kind of things to go into this, the social psychology of the internet.
Hmm.
So these things fall into that.
Hmm. There's so many consumers of YouTube, and even though there are a ton of creators on YouTube, there aren't, it's a small percentage of the overall audience of YouTube that become creators. Have you found, just in your own observations, that there are certain personality traits or characteristics that are common, or does that again depend on the person's intent for starting the channel?
Well, there is an interesting element that we have to talk about when we talk about these days and times and motivations for people to do things that they do, such as start a YouTube channel. One of those things has to do with revolutionary changes in our day-to-day society. We've had revolutionary changes take place that have greatly affected how we live our day-to-day lives. And as a researcher and a psychologist, these are extremely interesting to me. One thing that we have to consider is the impact of COVID. I know that everyone is tired of having to live and continue to live under these, this new normal. However, we have to look at how much COVID drove people onto social media, because that does reflect in the numbers. It does reflect in the research we know so far that there is a large, large percentage of people who made entry into the YouTube community either as a creator or an observer. And so just the idea that there's a larger volume of people entering into this area, this genre, this community, you have to consider too, there's a larger element of mental illness that enters it as well. So again, back to looking at motivations behind why people would do it, coupled with they also have their own individual issues and problems. I think that COVID motivated people not only to increase in viewership, but increase in the avenues of how they can, obtain money. And I think that a large number of people look at YouTube as the new element of income, the new streams of income. And for most, for all intents and purposes, it works, especially if you can tag into something very, very popular, cutting edge going on right now, like a Summer Wells case. It's, people are pushing that into the stratosphere of popularity and exposure, rightly so. But you have people that are running channels that have social problems, we'll say.
Right, to say the least.
And, they bring those elements into their channels and they do ultimately affect the viewers.
Yeah.
You've got viewers who are coming into this with their own issues. You've got creators going into that with their own issues. So, those create a dynamic that cause a culture within each one of those creators, environments such as chat and that sort of thing. Does this make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It totally does. If you think about a lot of the different creators in their chats when they do live streams, that they can be so vastly different. Some are calm and there's intellectual discourse and there's just friendliness, an overall tone of friendliness. And there are others where, even if you're normally outgoing, you may stay quiet because there are lots of very aggressive and sometimes hostile people that are looking for someone to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
So
yeah.
and
any opportunity to sit like in a jury waiting room or, a post office or a doctor's office, you start seeing all these characters in real life. Would they say and do the things in real life that they do online?
Right.
No.
Right. These different creators they have a certain tone to each of their channels and attract certain viewers. And have you observed certain characteristics or personality type of what you can observe just from people typing, because we don't really know who these people are or what they really are all about, that are attracted to certain channels? So if we say, for instance, there's one creator who happens to be local to the area, and when you go to his live streams, they tend to be very friendly and calm, and everyone just kind of contributes on a steady basis, but also calmly. The chat doesn't really go that fast, even if there's a lot of people in there. And there are other channels that are may have a ton of viewers, and it's kind of chaotic, and there will be, many different streams of conversation happening within the chat between all different people, aside from even what the creator is discussing. Have you observed any similarities of the people who go to that quieter chat between those people?
Well, I do think I understand what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we have to consider some variables. When we talk about any one specific creator, we have to take a look at the products that they have created. Are these products diversified, and do they draw the same type of audience behaviorally? In other words, let's just say I'm a creator and I make a video about summer wells and I make a video about peeling potatoes. They're going to attract a different type of audience, first of all.
Yeah.
They're also going to attract different type of behaviors from the audience. Given that I have been intensely studying the summer wells audience, I can speak pretty well on things I've observed within that.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go too far into that, let me offer something that might help us.
Okay.
As a psychologist, we use models, we use different things, social models to help us understand how people behave themselves and what kind of element they bring in that affect the behaviors of others. These are dynamics that go on continually, constantly during a live chat, right? We're talking about a live chat circumstance where people are in vivo reacting to one another, in live terms, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, subject matter matters. Let's take the Summer Wells case, like I said. What kind of creator is attracted to cover that? Are they a true crime creator, or are they a creator that started the channel because of the subject matter? I've observed both.
Mm-hmm.
I've observed people that make later entry in it because of their emotional needs. I've observed individuals who have emotional problems make entry into this and set up very, very popular, highly controversial, and still very actively gainful channels, but they themselves are emotionally stunted. This can be explained by a number of different things through a life experience, including the theoretical concept that someone that experiences, for example, sexual trauma at a young age, where it is argued, therapists and people of the scientific disciplines will argue that it stunts you at that age emotionally, and so you're able to evolve from it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, and I do say most, really never overcome a lot of the impact of their past. So
Mm-hmm.
to bring this to a more specific example, yes, I do know of creators who have made entry into this community and have developed extremely popular and successful channels based on broken people and broken ideas, because those things are very salacious and attractive.
Mm-hmm.
The very nature of true crime itself attracts the types of people who are interested in the salaciousness of crimes, or because they've experienced crimes and they are trying to resolve them themselves. So people who are the worst creators, I will argue, are those that make entry into any community, but especially true crime, as a broken person themselves. They're going to attract chaos, and they're going to attract many other negatives from the people that participate as well. They're also going to develop, a number of negatives, but one of them is more familiar term, mob mentality.
Mm-hmm.
People start getting a collective sameness in their thinking and in their experience. And then you get hate watchers and things like that. So yes, to answer your question, kind of circle the airport and land it. Yeah, there's a large number of people out there that really should not be creators. They're broken people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're creating more broken people and encouraging that.
Right.
They're perpetuating narratives around something serious that become convoluted and no longer are accurate to the circumstances of the story.
Right.
They invite peripheral individuals as well as specific individual suspects
Mm-hmm.
in a crime circumstance, and not only exploit for the benefit of their channel whatever topic matter that they can draw from, or pull out, make very popular. For example, Don Wells at first had no really told us, he told us himself, I really didn't know what to do. I wanted to do something, and I knew that social media could help.
Right.
He never had any YouTube experience, according to him. And he started contacting people that were covering um, the case, and going on their channels, and, trying to participate in an effort, according to his statements, to find Summer.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up appearing on channels that are using him
Yeah.
for the salaciousness of the fact that, he's a criminal, he's got this past, he's got these people speaking out against him, he's got a missing daughter, he's got kids taken from him. I mean, he offers so much in terms of content,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the broken persons, because they're relatable, and they're definitely objectionable. People have very strong opinions. And it develops this sort of, I don't know, the words haven't really been developed enough scientifically to describe what we're seeing, but it is, I mean, how do they say, and excuse my French, a shit show? I don't know what else to say other than, we're experiencing like a whirlwind of sickness
Yeah.
that is surrounding what is meant to be a beneficial thing.
Yeah.
And it's crossing many, many, many lines, legal lines,
Mm-hmm.
especially. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
sorry, I probably shouldn't use those technical terms.
No. You're totally fine. No, that was funny. No, I'm just even just that, what you've just said has given me so much, and I'm sure our audience so much to ponder. Just that chunk is that's huge. Because yeah, you can tell that there are definitely a lot of creators, viewers who definitely have a few issues, and nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. I have things I work on, but I think interacting with others online, you can kind of tell, who is a little more healthy in a mental or emotional way than others. Now, and then add in suspects in the case and the peripheral people, someone who worked at the convenience store that day, when
Right.
when the neighbor of the neighbor went to get gas, let's get him on and interview him. Like,
Right. Someone that smoked a joint with Candace at the lake that day.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, or when she was in high school, like things that really are just, yeah, it's kind of a far reach just searching for that content. Would you say that the more, and this is just my layman's term, the more dysfunctional a creator is, in turn, do you think that makes the channel more overall successful?
that is huge. Only because it is, and it's unanswerable. And the reason that it's unanswerable is because we're talking about specific human beings. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some people just have appeal and some people don't. And then some people, and I would argue a large audience, a large number of people are looking for an audience that's Jerry Springer like.
Yeah.
Because it allows them the freedom to interact more genuinely with what their feelings are.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, there's an assumption of anonymity and an assumption that there is a likeness across the population inside a chat room, that we're all pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even argue that some people don't even have a concept that there is a varying degree of diversity,
Right.
in a chat. And people will make comments, it's a huge responsibility as a creator,
Yeah.
to make sure that you stay politically correct in all directions. And that's difficult, especially for someone with problems, we'll say.
Right.
And there's, let's be fair. there's a large number of us that have problems, in any
Yeah.
given day when you're out driving around, how many people are on antidepressants driving around? How many people
Yeah.
are on, different medications that are, we're talking about the same thing in a chat, but with the cloak of not being seen
Right.
and the bravery of being able to speak out according to what we feel is going on amongst our like people, our like selves out there.
Hmm.
So there definitely is something to be said about dysfunctionality at the creator level. Um, Another creator that comes to mind, this is someone that's very big right now in the critical media. She's been to Rogersville, created a great deal of concerns.
Hmm.
There's been a few of them, a couple of them I'd really like to touch on if I could, but
Sure. Yeah.
in fairness, you know, um, I think that one of them in particular uses past television as a claim to fame, and then uses this, I am on a bigger level than other people are, and then the followers will come in kind. But that person has got huge attention needs, and I argue that attention is a large factor in this,
Hmm.
that most creators, if not all creators, have an element of needing attention.
Hmm.
There is a overused, largely misunderstood word called narcissism
Hmm.
that people will use to describe things that aren't, people that aren't necessarily narcissistic in nature. They're broken, they're dysfunctional. They come from what looks normal to them is very crazy to us type thing.
Right.
It's very relatable. So many people out there. You're going to
Hmm.
attract those people, and then those people are going to, over time, develop a sameness and a echo chamber,
Hmm.
um, you know, and create more problems. So, who it is and what their experience is and who they think they are make a difference as well.
Hmm.